Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, earthlings, everywhere. Today's video is very much a philosophical chat because I just see the world going crazy. Firstly, I hope everyone watching is safe and well and having as good a time as possible. Now, obviously we watch world events all the time, especially big ones. And as a lot of you who've been watching me know, I have severe concerns about the effect of bots on human beings. We as humans are enormously complex, emotional. Bots are nothing of the sort. Well, they have no feelings at all. They're programmed. And as a lot of you will know, for ages I've expressed concerns that celebrities, politicians, public figures can buy bots and can influence people until they get to the stage where they're just going crazy. Now, to take as an example, and one of the subjects I'm going to talk about is obviously the Trump thing, but that's not political. You know, I'm not American, and as I've said before, I'm not Biden, I'm not Trump. But let's just take this guy, this 20-year-old, Thomas Crooks. Now, there are many things people are discussing and analysing, but this morning I see that there are reports that the authorities seized his devices and they found on it, amongst other things, that he had been searching a member of the royal family, an unnamed member of the royal family. Now, obviously, all public figures have security issues, but this interests me particularly because which member of the royal family? Now, at this stage, we have no idea. But potentially, it could be Harry or Meghan because they live in estates, so they would be more accessible to or have been more accessible to this guy. Or there's a possibility, and it's only a possibility, and this is just my pure speculation, so, you know, there's no fact or basis in this, I'm just speculating. Could he have been a sugar, what we would call a sugar, the ironic term for a bitter fan of Harry and Meghan's? Because for several years now, a lot of you guys in the comments have expressed concern that because of the level of vitriol amongst Meghan and Harry diehard fans, and I'm not talking about all of Meghan and Harry's fans, there are perfectly normal people out there who support and like them for a variety of reasons, but there is definitely this sort of, what's the word, sort of little terrorist, whipped up by people like Christopher Boozy, who, let's not forget, starred on Harry and Meghan's Netflix docuseries. Could that be the case? Maybe not, or maybe Harry or Meghan themselves, but it says a member, an unnamed member of the royal family, so singular, like one person, and he was searching other people, head of the FBI apparently, and other people. So it wasn't just Donald Trump, and apparently he'd even researched, you know, some Joe Biden rally, but I mean, things are very, very unclear there. But this was my point. I am a free speech absolutist. I believe people should be allowed to express their feelings and thoughts freely. However, I don't believe that issuing threats or death threats to each other is a good thing. And my video the other day where I used just our death threat as an example, that was just an example. There are literally millions of threats issued all of the time on social media. All of the time. And Elon Musk thinks that's okay. Well, he doesn't think it's okay now. Now this really serious incident has happened. Now he's changed his mind a little bit. And I'm not convinced that death threats are covered by, is it the First Amendment in America, free speech? Are you guys in America allowed to issue death threats? Is that covered? Is it like a right? I don't think that's a constitutional right. I don't think it can be. Because death threats are not free speech. So when people say, you know, you can't threaten to kill somebody else. You can't conspire to kill somebody else. You can't threaten to harm somebody else because that's against the law. That, by saying that's illegal and you can't do that, I don't believe that is infringing on people's rights of free speech. That's a completely different thing. Now, it's all very well, a lot of people are of the opinion when something happens online, it's not in the real world. Somehow it's in this sort of cyber weird world. Well, the problem is it can spill over into the real world. And some people can become so wound up. I mean, this kid, Thomas Crooks, well, what the hell? I mean, that's his whole life wasted. Well, what was he thinking? What drove him to do that? It kind of fascinates me. What would motivate a person to do such a thing? I mean, even if he were not to be shot and killed, the very least a person could expect is that most of their life is going to be flushed down the toilet serving a prison sentence. So what's the motivation? Where did it start? And I mean, I would imagine it probably started on social media. That's just a guess of mine. They said he was a loner and bullied at school and stuff. And I'm not, this isn't about Thomas Crooks. I can imagine by now there's a million comments about Thomas Crooks and political comment. This is nothing to do with politics. What Harry and Meghan have been trying to do is literally silence people's free speech. I have never heard either of them say they want to prevent death threats. What they want to prevent is criticism. They want to silence people, gag people, which would have a chilling effect. If they had come out and ever said at any point, no, it's more about death threats. People should not threaten each other. That would be a different story. But that is not what they've done. That's not what the Aspen Institute... I read that Aspen Institute report. I've been following this story for years. I see overnight as well, extraordinary, that apparently there have been riots in Leeds. And it's not really clear why. So there's been some suggestion it was something to do with child protection services and the removal of a or more than one child, but I don't know. But the images and scenes that I've seen, the crowd built very, very quickly. And again, I'm wondering, was that whipped up on social media? Because I have been watching this and I don't have that much life experience, but I'm 54 and I've seen some crazy stuff. And so when I see just topics, situations online, I can see where it's going to go. You don't have to be a psychiatrist or an expert or a pundit to see where this is going to end up. Do you know, we had a policeman came to join the Royal Gibraltar Police years ago. I don't know if he's still there, but he came from Sheffield and he had the most piercing blue eyes and he looked me dead in the eye and he said in all sincerity, social media is the root of all evil. And I said to him, well, what makes you say that? And he said, I've come from Sheffield and I've seen some stuff and a lot of it started on social media. Now, he said that to me back in 2017, 2018, something like that. And it got me thinking. Now, the majority of people online are just getting about their business online. They're chatting about whatever subject they're interested in, knitting, gardening, whatever. But then you get these extremely divisive characters like Harry and Meghan. And I have seen the behaviour of their die-hard fans and the threats and the things they say about the Prince and Princess of Wales and their children. These are dangerous times, really dangerous times. People have been, and Harry and Meghan themselves have never come out to denounce it, calm it down. Neither of them ever stepped forward during the whole debacle with the Princess of Wales when she was recovering for health issues, and there were all these wild conspiracy theories going on out there. And I mean, she just trended globally. Neither one of them came out and said, please calm it down. And yet they are advocates for a kinder place online, shall we say. So wouldn't that have been the perfect moment for them to step forward and say, this has to stop? I mean, that's right up their street. It's another member of the royal family having an extremely hard time online. Wouldn't that be the perfect moment for them? But no, they didn't do that because I believe they actively want to whip it up. They kind of enjoy it. Well, I think Meghan, I'm not so sure Harry wants to whip that up. I think Harry's brain is in another place. I think he's in a world of confusion at the moment, and well, that's its own bed of nails that he's made, isn't it? But I mean, it is, thankfully, YouTube seems to be one of the nicer platforms where everybody seems to be able to have a debate. Sometimes I see you guys having a debate on a thread in the comments, but I never see you threaten each other. I never see you get angry with each other. And sometimes it's a misunderstanding and one person will say, oh, I see, I phrased that wrongly. I see what you mean. No, I didn't mean that. But I'm in other social platforms, and I think the worst one is X. And before anybody says anything, I post on X, but I very rarely go and look at anything else on there. And I post mostly about the royal family and stories that interest me. I'm not sure it's ever occurred to Harry and Meghan that by wading in on this online campaign of theirs to silence people's free speech, that they've actually not only made themselves a lot more unpopular, they could actually put themselves in a lot more danger by doing this, by interfering. Because some people may become so angry, so wound up, that then it spills out into the real world. I find the whole thing extraordinary, and I do not envy the police their job, because there's so much of it going on online. How can the police discern what is a Twitter spat from what is a seriously deranged human being who may actually go out in the real world and act upon something that has caused them deep emotion? You know, it's provoked something inside them. And whatever they have been interacting with, yes, may well be other human beings, but may also be bots or paid troll farms by a celebrity or a politician to wind things up. And I mean, we end up at a state now where not only Donald Trump being shot at and that poor guy losing his life, his family, oh my goodness. But I'm not saying the riots in Leeds were caused by social media, but I believe that stuff was spread. You know, it was fuel on the fire. How do the police even begin policing it when a lot of the social media companies won't even cooperate? You know, when police want to go and say who's behind this, who's behind that, it takes months. It's not an easy task at all. You would think it is, but it is not. And of course then there's prioritising, budgets, etc. Well, and I really don't know where it's all going to end. It reminds me a bit of The Purge. You know, anyone familiar with The Purge? It was a fictitious story, films, where it was an annual event where there was no law for 12 hours, one day a year. You could kill murder was legal. You could kill anybody, you could steal anything. I've never actually watched any of The Purges, but I've heard of it and I'm familiar with the theory. I mean, it begins to get like that. I mean, is that really how everybody wants to live? So, I mean, yes, we all have free speech and that must never be taken away from us, ever. But with free speech comes responsibility and how people use that and how people think about it. Well, it's very, very hot here. It's very humid. We're in the middle of a heat wave. It's always hot at this time of year, but I mean, it's a particular heat wave at the moment. And we're busy as usual. I'm really looking forward to reading your thoughts and opinions on this one. I mean, it would be interesting if they could release the name of whoever it was Thomas Crook was searching in the royal family. Can you imagine if it did turn out that he was a sugar, that he followed Christopher Boozy, for example, stuff like that? I mean, that might get the mainstream media actually looking at, and I know a lot of them have actually. If you search Sussex Squad, a lot of newspaper and mainstream media articles do come up. They have tried to broach the subject. And I mean, you just never know, because when people are online, they are sometimes different to how they are in the real world, and sometimes they're exacerbated of what they are. And I've said often, you know, this is why we all have to be careful to keep things calm and to discuss things, and that's the whole point of democracy. I mean, speaking of democracy, I can honestly see politicians and governments becoming obsolete because we've got these billionaires. Let's take Elon for an example. If they come up with solutions of technology, then that will be popular. If it's affordable and it's popular, the society will go with that. And I think that more and more Bezos, perhaps not Zuckerberg so much, they may come up with solutions until people sort of see government as a little token thing and people give up on voting. I mean, are we looking at really the breakdown of society? And I'm not laying that blame at Meghan and Harry's door. I certainly don't think they've got the power or influence to do anything like that. But were they part of the butterfly effect, you know, where they started a small thing and it just got worse? It seems to me there is far, far too much hatred and anger in the world at the moment. And we count our blessings every day, you know, that we're alive. We're still here. We're still in the game. And, well, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Have a lovely weekend and above all, be happy and be safe. Thank you very much for listening.